guys. We're back with episode 2 of the Rake. We lost our co-host in the first 5 seconds of the show. Crouton bolted, so this episode is gonna suck. How's it going, Marles?
I'm doing great. I'm excited for this episode. We have some fun topics, some things that, we know a lot about. We've had a lot of experience with it. Women in poker.
Yep, been female my whole life.
Yeah.
And I think this is something that gets talked about very superficially in a lot of interviews I've done, where they'll say, hey, what's it like being a woman in poker? And they want like a quick little soundbite about what it's like. And I feel like it'll be useful for us to get a little bit deeper in a few episodes, just basically talking about how it's been, the evolution of being a woman in poker. I know you're like kind of new to poker, but it has definitely gotten better from when I first started playing. One of the main things that when I first started playing was like the barrier to entry seemed a little bit higher. I always felt like there weren't many women playing. So when I entered a poker room, people were like, what are you doing here?
Definitely.
It was very novel for a woman to be sitting at the table. So then you couldn't just be a normal person going to play poker. People would kind of like interview you at the table. Like, how'd you get here? What are you doing? Did your husband put you in? Did your boyfriend like teach you how to play? All that stuff. And I feel like recently there have been more women that are serious grinders and that have been like on televised poker games and high stakes games. Yeah. And it's gotten a little bit better.
I definitely agree. I mean, the numbers are still very, very low, but I think that the biggest change is it's not as much of a novelty. And I think that just from my experience in my trajectory, I think that it's worse in the lower stakes games, in the lower stakes buy-in tournaments, and maybe in like the dingier rooms, maybe a little bit. I don't know. I think that definitely in some of the nicer rooms in Vegas and when you just get around pros and stuff, they just learn to look at you almost as, they just look at you as how good you are, how good you aren't. Okay. And I definitely feel, like respected. And I think that, the attitude to women in general has definitely shifted.
Yeah.
Just in my few years of being immersed in the industry. But
yeah, and something you mentioned was like some of the worst rooms, you'll get treated worse.
I think so, yeah.
I think I noticed recently when I played at the Aria that there'll be 2 or 3 women at each table at mid-stakes, and it's also the room where they do not put up with bullshit. If you get mistreated, a floor person's going to take care of it. Like the person will get booted if it rises to a level that's like unacceptable. And then some of the other rooms that are smaller that rely on these customers that keep coming back all the time, like they don't want to kick someone out. So someone can say something awful to a female dealer and it's like, okay, that's a warning. Hope you keep paying Rake. And like the bigger, better rooms just don't have to tolerate any of that crap. So they end up treating their customers better overall.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had a few experiences with harassment and stuff at the table, a lot, mostly from my earlier years. And I've heard some crazy stories from female friends of mine, too. Much worse than mine. I think I've been lucky in that sense. But I think that like the debate is a big debate on how to deal with that and how to deal with harassment at the table. I've definitely taken personally, and I've seen every method used. I've definitely called the floor. I've definitely gotten upset. And I think I've definitely just left and walked out or made some sarcastic comment back to them. But at this point, I think that the best thing to do is to kind of not make a scene about it. And I think that if anything, that kind of just makes you end up looking bad and the vibe uncomfortable. Even if they do end up getting kicked out, I think that the vibe at the table just takes a hit and you're just kind of like, like...
Me and you deal with things similarly where it's you'd rather just put out a sarcastic comment to make the guy look like a dick and then you're over it. But I also respect other people are different and like they don't want to have to do that. They want their day to be pleasant and their table to be like nice to each other, and that's fine too. If like how you want to deal with it, say this person's mistreating me, talk to the floor, get it dealt with. Like that's all right too. We're all different. Women tend to be treated as like, oh, women in poker, we're all this one group and we're all homogenous, but we're not. Yeah. Like some people are more sensitive to things. Like I take pleasure in dismantling a person who is going to be obnoxious, especially if it's not toward me. If it's toward a female dealer or something, I'm like, it's great. I had a story where a guy was super drunk and he was just mistreating the dealer and he wasn't tipping her. And so it's a couple minutes later, and I'm realizing he's winning every pot as the drunk guy, which is already as annoying.
Yeah.
But he's not tipping her. And finally I'm like, oh, God, isn't Amy just the worst? Isn't she the worst dealer that you've ever had? And he's like, no, she's fine. I'm like, then why the hell aren't you tipping her? And he just throws her 2 $25 chips in a 2-5 game. And I was like, okay, like, but that was one way to deal with it, where I'm like, no one had to call floor. No one had to, like, you didn't even have to really make him feel too terrible. Yeah. That's usually how I deal with it. But I understand, like, sometimes the harassment reaches a level where it's, like, gross, and that person shouldn't be playing poker there anymore.
I've had some horrible experiences early on in my career. Like, in the last few years, nothing. And if anything, the majority of what I get is just one-off comment, or even see at the table to other females, because sometimes it's like a much hotter girl at the table, and you know what I mean. And then I get a little bit like, wait, no one's harassing me. Like, just one sexual comment, please. Like, come on, like I like unbutton, and please. But I notice it too, and for me, it's like I just get the one-off. They're usually harmless comments of just like, oh, well, like, I got a hit on you now. And I'm like, clearly it's your first time. Like, clearly you need to practice better because it's not working. But I don't know. I think that if you just play it off like that, most of the time it just disarms them. Mm-hmm. And it kind of... And it's almost like entertaining to the table, and it puts everyone at ease of like, oh, this woman can handle herself. I think that in definitely the Me Too movement in general with the world, men, can get very uncomfortable in environments where they feel women are being harassed, and they don't necessarily know how to react in that scenario. So if you kind of play that up of like, oh yeah, there's something going on and this is bad, then they kind of get like, oh fuck, do I stand up? Do I, you know what I mean? It just kind of doesn't, it's not going to be good for everybody. So I think that the more that you can kind of play it off, and obviously there's a line. If someone's touching you, if someone's crossing that line, then I think it's totally appropriate to speak up. But for me, thank God that rarely, if ever, happens these days. So I don't know. I've had almost nothing that bad, like things I could usually handle myself. And then one time a guy just followed me to the parking lot. So we had to take a quick pause because Crouton decided to loudly eviscerate his squirrel toy. And that's why a dog appeared out of nowhere. But yeah, back to the treatment of us in poker. I had almost no very bad experience. I had all the ones where you could just like let them roll off your shoulder, no big deal. Until the one time I was kind of getting harassed by this guy. It wasn't that big of a deal. And I pick up at 3 a.m. at Parks, get all the way to my car, and realize this guy has followed me to my car. And it was like very unnerving. And I was like, that was a spot where I wish I had said something to the floor, because they would have stopped it before it got to that point. And thankfully, my friend DJ saw it happening and followed him out and actually approached him as this dude parked his car behind mine so I couldn't leave. And he just said, what are you doing? The guy said, I just came out here to apologize for what I was saying at the table. And he's like, at 3 a.m. in a dark parking lot, you came out to apologize? Are you serious? And he just left because DJ was there. And I was like, okay, maybe I should start believing the women who said they're being harassed, because I just felt like, maybe I'm just tougher than them. Maybe I'm like, I'm dealing with it in a way where like it doesn't ever really get that bad. But then I'm like, some people are definitely telling the truth that they've had some pretty awful situations in casinos, and that like maybe just listen to women when they complain a little bit about some of the stuff that's been said and done to them. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm nothing that bad, but I've heard some stories. Kim Lim is been around forever, plays high stakes too, but she's actually heard some stories from dealers, from everybody that are pretty awful. And I think that also just having us more of us around will change that too, because no one's, it's just less acceptable. And, I think the only acceptable time to harass women is when they have sucked a dick for a steak, which I've done many times. And honestly,
he's just a child.
Is a baby?
Earmuffs, Crouton.
Oh, many times. No, he sucked his own dick for a steak. So he's probably gonna do it mid podcast. It's all good.
It's fine.
It's all good. But I made a very infamous vlog about several of them, poking fun at this. Getting, opportunities for dating poker players or hooking up with poker players. And it's like very common thing in poker is people think that that's why you get opportunities. And how I think that, you know, you can handle it is to make fun of yourself. And I think that that's the kind of best way to get through to guys is to kind of poke fun of yourself. And that's what it kind of disarms them in that way. If you know, just say, haha, like, look at me. And I think that when I put that out in the beginning, there was definitely polarized interpretations of it. But now I think that more people are doing that more and more is just, you know, laughing at themselves. So
yeah,
I think it helps.
I feel like also some of the people who are kind of mad at you about it, just reading some of their comments, I'm like, people who do comedic things need to take chances. Mm-hmm. If you don't, it's just going to be really boring. Yeah. There are some like super clean comedians who I still really loved. But I think that's really hard to do. And I think that's rare. And so if you're making fun of yourself first and foremost, and then you're also willing to clarify afterwards that you're like, hey, I wasn't shitting on sex workers. Like I was making fun of myself and whatever. I think that that's fine if you can like own it afterwards. And also if you were doing that for buy-ins, like, your life.
It's my life, right? And like, and you know, I think that I mean, I do get that. You know, we have worked so hard. There are several women who have said that to me. You know, who now I'm friends with, but have said like, oh, you know, we've worked so hard to have that not be what people think of us. And I'm like,
it was satire.
In my mind, it's like. I know, you know, my come up story. I know kind of what that looked like. And, you know, the fact that I've never dated or slept with someone financially interested in my poker career. And I think I've also been really lucky that the people I've been around have always been like brother figures and have no way has even been like a thing.
Yeah, but you have to know that that's like an entire category on Pornhub.
Is what? Poker stakers?
No, I'm saying the brother thing. I'm kidding.
Oh, it is for sure. Yeah, no, it is for sure. And maybe we should start that category in Pornhub is, you know, oh man.
Poker staking. Oh my God. It can be like the massage thing. You're just like, oh yeah, man, I really need a stake. What am I to do?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it would be great. It's actually my next video. Cool. But yeah, that's just a thing that, you know, people think about us, but at the end of the day, I don't really see what's wrong with it. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, just be you.
Yeah.
Make your vlogs. It was funny because like that vlog, even the people who hate watched it and hate commented on it, I was like, if you guys knew what YouTube, like how it worked, you wouldn't do that because it was helping you boost it anyway.
Oh.
And then made you way more popular. So the people were like, F this girl, blah, 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 blah. It's like, comment again. Keep them coming.
For sure. And, you know, I think that we all do it. I'm guilty of it too, of seeing, you know, it's so funny because in poker, this is kind of maybe a little bit of a tangent, but it's actually encouraged to be a little bit judgmental and stereotypical when you see someone because it helps to profile them when they sit down at the table and be like, this guy's 65. He looks
probably tight.
Yeah, like, you know, it helps to profile people. And I think that I do it. When I see a woman, I'm not going to lie, a lot of times I'm like, okay, that's a spot. Like, I need until proven otherwise, and I've been proven wrong so many times, and so I kind of try to, you know, use that to my advantage, and I think that we should use that to our advantage, and also, you know, it is what it is, but I think it's changing.
It's fair. So maybe your brain's stereotyping him for some reason, but for me, I'm like, I make it a point to try to be friendly and know all the really good female pros and like, and the people who are coming up in poker. So if I was playing high stakes with a woman I didn't know, I would just assume the person has a good job and makes their own money and is not a poker pro. So I would think they're a spot too. Yeah. And then maybe there's someone who plays somewhere I've never been and maybe they're really good, but then you adjust your stereotype based on that. Yeah. But I think I'm past that point where I'm like, oh, female, she must be bad at math and stupid. I'm like, I don't think that. I'm like, some of my like smartest friends, like we were talking about Jen Shahadi earlier, brilliant person who dominates a bunch of mind games and mathematical based games. So, you know, there's a lot of exceptions. And I feel like in poker, the women who have stayed in for the longest and risen in stakes are on average probably better poker players and better at math than the average guy. Because I think it is a little harder as a woman to get into poker. You have to like really want to be in it.
Yeah. And I think that also when you're playing in bigger games too, and as you like become more experienced, you can, it fades away pretty quickly. Like this, you know, a young girl that I play with all the time, she plays big. Her name is Lynn. Shout out Lynn. She's very talented. And, you know, actually my boyfriend said that she's one of the smartest, you know, poker players, especially for her age. She's very young. She just gets it. And within, you know, when you first see her, you might think, oh, she's young, she's cute, she's, you know, a girl. And she is kind of bubbly and outgoing, but it's like, then within 5 minutes, especially if you just know what to look for, you just like know what to look for. And you can just see that she takes the time to think about bet sizing. She understands ranges. Like these things become clear, very obvious, very quickly. And then that stereotypes go away. I think it's the difference between a normal like person who's sexist and racist in real life and a poker player. It's like,
you're doing it to try to like but then get an edge and like get information, and like that's where your brain goes. You're like, okay, this person is like this other person who I've observed to be this way, and then until you get new information, you put them in the same category.
And then when you get the new information, I think that, you know, a good poker player, once they get that new information, it overrides the fact that
some people can't. Like, you know, that's why it is. There are some advantages. So there's disadvantages. Yes, you're going to deal with some people who are going to hit on you and you don't want to be hit on. You'll be talked to when you want to concentrate instead. Those are the cons of being a woman in poker. But then some of the pros are that some people will be hard-headed and they will think no matter what you do that you're tight. Yeah. You'll be able to capitalize on that when you realize it's happening. And other things. I mean, like, we can't lie. We get some cool opportunities. And that makes up for some of the annoying stuff you put up with sometimes. Yeah, it does. And I think as we're seeing poker turn more private, more invitation only, you know, it is all about just getting the seat now. And it isn't so much of a meritocracy as it used to be. And while that's not fair completely, you know, if the options are getting a seat, but you know that you're only there because you're a woman, but you're still there and you still get to win. It's still not, you know, rigged. That's like, it's a weird thing to have to think about because you want it to be fair and you want to make it on your own and you want to make sure that you're a good player, and that's why you have the seat and that's why you're at that stake. But at the same time, it's like you can't say no to good opportunities just because you have this feeling of like, oh, I don't know if I deserve this. Because it's like the guys who hate on you for taking that seat would take that seat if they were friends with the game runner or something else, some other way to get in. So I feel like that has to be hard to like ignore the noise because you've gotten to play in some of the biggest games. Like, do you find it hard to not just always be sticking up for yourself and being like, well, you take the seat too or whatever? I do, but I also feel like part of me... I think that I just see that, yes, that I'm so lucky to just be there. But at the end of the day, it's still fucking hard. And I still have to win. I still have to play in these really tough games and actually perform. And I think we've seen a lot of people, but women also come in and out of nosebleed stakes and they play for a month or 2 or 6 months and then you just never hear from them, or they quit or they're just gone. And that's because they got that seat, the door was open for them, but like they still have to perform. And no one's just handing you $1 million and be like, keep it, have fun, enjoy the yacht. It makes me think of like when I always use this analogy when I used to be an actor of like, actors always say like, oh, I don't have an agent, that's why I'm not getting parts. No, like, you know, they say when you're an actor, when you're ready for an agent, they're gonna come knocking on your door. And it's so true. Because they make money when you're good and they can get you parts. It's like agents don't do anything. All they do is get you in the door. And then if you're bad at acting, you're not gonna book and they're gonna drop you. Same thing with stakers. The person who stakes me found me, approached me and said, hey, I would like to put you in this game. Like I think I can get in. You know, he knew my old staker. He asked him for a reference and, you know, was I trustworthy and whatever. And the person who had staked me for years gave me a reference and said, yeah, she's great. Despite all that, he still gave her the spot. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, he was like, oh man, she's going to like cheat. She's going to steal. She's got a drinking problem. Most of the money on shoes, but you know, give her a shot. But yeah, she can understand basic things. But so I kind of feel like it's all this pressure. And I also feel it is just pressure. You know, it's just like, okay. And also now when I play lower, people are like, is she broke? She's busted. What's she doing? Like, and I'm like, no, the game doesn't go all the time. And this is actually like my own money. So this is just like a totally different thing. But it's very difficult. And I definitely have more empathy for the people in general, but especially the women who have been able to like stand the test of time in big games.
It's tough.
Shout out to Kim Lim for one of the funniest comments that I've heard at a table. We're playing and Randall Emmett is talking about how she's lucky and is she staked and like whatever. She has this massive stack and she just goes, I'm just lucky. My daddy's rich.
Yeah. There you go.
And I'm like, I know that's not true. She's been crushing the game. She had like a plus, I don't remember, maybe plus 100K summer or something, the stakes she was playing. And she had already just climbed up those stakes. So it was like massive for her. But it was great for her to be like humble enough to be like, he might take that as true and think I'm not good and think someone's handing me money. But she didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
She's like, she knows she grinds. That girl plays she plays through so many nights. Like, I'm addicted to her Instagram stories because she'll just actually put when she's getting slaughtered, which I think is like a redeeming quality when someone is basically vlogging and like letting us live their poker life. And she'll play like multiple overnight sessions, but then she'll tell Randall that her daddy's rich because it's probably going to make her more money in the long run if he thinks she's a fish, which, you know, that's really cool. And if you could like completely eliminate pride from your game, then like you can find small edges in that too. And just being able to just, you know, kind of lie to your opponents and try to get them to lose even more to you.
Definitely. I think for myself, I've gone through like periods of like up and down with that. And the times I feel like I'm the happiest and I thrive the most is when I make vlogs like that. And I can just totally be like, I don't care about what anybody thinks, you know. But of course, we all have I have moments where I'm like, oh man, we're like, I could prove him wrong that I actually know what I'm talking about and all these things. But it's like, why, you know?
Yeah, it would be nice to be able to filter that. Like we talked about it in the before about being a tiny bit spiteful and having that kind of like fuel your passion for getting better at something. It would be nice if you could take that, like I've been getting better at that, taking people's criticism and being like, I'm going to use this to study and that's how I'll prove them wrong. I don't have to like put out some witty tweet to put them down or whatever. I'm like, how about I just internalize it a little bit and say, yeah, this person's probably a little bit right. It's probably coming from somewhere. And the reason it bothers me is because I know they're kind of right.
Yeah.
If it was a comment that had nothing to do with anything I think is a flaw of mine, then I don't usually care. If someone's like, oh, you're fat, you're ugly, I'm like, don't care. But if it's something where I feel like it is actually a weakness, where I'm like, yeah, I do need to work on my game more, and then they say it, and then it hurts, I'm like, okay, that's one where I can get spiteful and be like, I'll show them and show me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, something else I want to talk about, something that no one talks about is like the women in poker who get none of the benefits. Because there's definitely like older women in poker who like, I respect them so much because they started playing a long time ago. It was even harder to play. It was harder to get in there. They were definitely putting up with more sexism and just general shittiness, and they stuck with it. And they're not getting handed seats in big games, and they're not getting handed sponsorships for the most part. And they play because they love it. And like I've coached a couple of seminars where I was super impressed by how much work they actually put in, and super impressed by how filthy their mouths are. Or I'm like, I love when a dealer or a floor person or something be like, oh guys, no, there's a woman in the game, and I'm like, you have no idea what we're like. We're filthy, disgusting creatures. Yeah. Like if you put us all together and talk about whatever we want. And some of the older women were just like amazing. And I just want to give them a quick shout out because I feel like when we talk about women in poker, we're like, oh, we get hit on. It's so hard. And I'm like, yeah, that part sucks. But like also I think being 70 and playing and having people condescend to you a lot and not really give you the credit you deserve and to continue playing despite there not being real big upside for you. Like that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I mean, the day I stop getting hit on is the day I'm just going to probably end it. You know? I mean, what's the point?
Listen, you won over Crouton. He'll still love you no matter what. You could put on 200 pounds, be busted. He doesn't care.
Seriously, this is my man forever. But I think that, you know, I hope to be one of those women. You know, I think that poker is great. Also, you can just play forever. I mean, there's no physical boundary. There's no, you know.
Yeah, look at Doyle. He's in Bobby's room still. And putting in pretty long sessions and playing like complete nosebleeds. And from what I hear that he does pretty well. Yeah. So that's awesome that this is something where like as a former athlete, I'm like, I miss being really good at sports, but this is a competitive outlet that I could have for the rest of my life. And that's awesome.
Yeah.
So to pivot to a completely unrelated topic, but one that's been all over the Twitter feeds lately, Venetian introduced a new kind of reverse guarantee where they're holding a 150K guaranteed tournament where the prize pool will always be 150K if 5 people show up, if 10,000 people show up. And I believe this is a $250 buy-in. So I first had this sent to me and my friend said, could this be real? And I read the little note at the bottom about what they were trying to guarantee. And I was like, oh, it just must be a misprint. Come on. Like, no casino is going to do something this scummy. And then it was actually the next day they put it out clarifying that, yes, we're going to hold this guaranteed prize pool. And anything above the 150K is just going to be straight rake. So the person that meets the guarantee, the next person who buys in is paying $250 directly to the rake.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Were they just not making enough money? Maybe they're hurting. Maybe that's the problem. Should we be concerned?
Yeah, I think
times are tough.
They're actually just going to shut the lights down in the casino.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know, their marketing department was like, I have a brilliant plan. I think we're just going to charge 100% rake.
Yeah, that's crazy. So they must think that. I mean, it's crazy because in a time where there's more competition than ever, we're seeing every casino put out their own series. Planet Hollywood, you know, Golden Nugget has a great one. The Wynn. There's so much competition at a time like this. Why would you want to be less competitive? Why would you want to have, you know, it's like, I don't understand it. What do you think is the reasoning?
I think this is one of those things you put in the fine print and go, hope it works.
Just greedy, just out and out greedy.
Maybe. I mean, if I were in marketing, in their marketing department, I would be like, this is something that's going to not go over very well. So I'm not sure what they're thinking. I really hope that players just don't show up and that it'll never be a thing again. The evolution of guarantees is kind of interesting because when they first started making guarantees, probably like 10 years ago, they were aggressive and like poker was doing really well and they could say $1 million guarantee and they'd hit their guarantees all the time. Poker started to wane a little bit, the interest, and a couple casinos got hit with big guarantees that they promised and then couldn't deliver. And they all responded in different ways. So I actually got super lucky at one. I made the first like good final table I ever made was a 2K at Mohegan Sun, where they guaranteed a really big prize pool right after WSOP, not realizing that a whole lot of people go broke during WSOP and they do not fly to the middle of the woods in Connecticut to put up 2K for a tournament. So not only did they guarantee the money and add it to the prize pool, they actually had a bunch of food served. They were making it a big event. So they said, you know what, we'll still serve this food for free. And I was like, you guys should probably charge for these sandwiches.
Yeah, I know. Seriously.
When you're adding like $200,000 to the prize pool. But that was a classy way that they handled it. And, you know, they learned from their mistake. And I'm sure that they lowered the guarantee for next time. But then after some of these casinos got hit with that, they started to do something where they would put $500,000 prize pool tournament with a little asterisk. You'd go to the bottom and it'd say estimated prize pool. And I was like, estimated prize pool, what is this? And, you know, of course, 2+2 was on it. A lot of people there are like investigators of these things. Yeah. And they realized that there was absolutely no guarantee on it. And that if 5 people showed up, that there'd be the 5 people's buy-ins in the prize pool minus the rake. And that would be the tournament. So that was kind of a sketchy way that casinos would try to appear to have a guarantee, but have actual no real money at risk. But like nothing like this before, where they're like, we're going to guarantee there's no more than this money in the prize pool. And I don't know what they're thinking. And I really hope that this doesn't somehow catch on with the other casinos.
Has there been a tournament since that announcement? Or
they have a lot. They have actually their deep stack going on now.
Yeah, I was wondering, has the turnout been affected? I mean, this is such a big news story on Twitter and social media. Obviously, I think that, and I think that professionals who do, this is like what they do, I think that we're going to see obviously a huge dip, if not an out strike amongst poker pros. But there's so many people who either aren't on social media, just play, you know, one tournament a month and they just don't, or even they don't even care because they're like, whatever, I'm just having fun anyways.
People on vacation just go, that fits my vacation schedule. Like I can get away from my family for this one tournament, and they'll just show up and play. Yeah,
and they don't, and they, even if you sat them down and told them, they wouldn't care. And that's probably what it's kind of almost similar to me.
They're counting on that.
Yeah, it's similar to me how in casinos you still have to ask for rake reduction, you know, and it's similar. They're counting on people just not asking, even though it should be automatic and it should be a thing. I think that even like that's even something where the nicer casinos will just do automatically, and the nice dealers and the nice floor. One of the reasons why I like the Wynn so much is they always do that. They just, you know, they don't necessarily are supposed to, but they are really nice about it. And even doing no rake for you. And I think that goes a long way, and I wish it went further, honestly. I think that there are some people who just I don't know. They don't care enough. They don't care.
Yeah. They're like, people still show up and play this thing anyway.
Yeah.
And like a lot of the times they're right. And that's kind of why I wish poker was a more cohesive community sometimes, where we could like actually take a stand and say, hey guys, let's go somewhere else for this. But then you'll try to start that movement, and then there'll be like 10 guys who are like, ooh, if all the pros go somewhere else, I'm going to that tournament. You know, that is true. It has happened before. Like I used to not go to Venetian because they had a really hard stance against online poker. And I'm like, am I really going to go pay money to someone who is so active against my interests? And so I just wouldn't. And I would try to get some other people to agree to that. And then I'd have friends laughing at me like, oh, you're such a stupid idealist. And like, yeah, go ahead, miss the softest tournaments. Like, glad you're sitting out and that some guy who has like millions of dollars and doesn't really play poker is playing it instead. I'm like, I just hate that we like are short term looking at our best interest in that moment and not looking at it in the future, how it's going to be. And so I hope that the people who are talking about it on social media don't look at that tournament and say, oh, it's $50K short of the guarantee, I'm going to go throw my $250 in there and like take a shot. And like, don't do that. Like, let's punish them for doing a kind of shady thing.
It's so funny because as somebody with no ethics or morals, I usually don't care about this kind of stuff.
So good luck in the tournament, Marle.
So what I'm saying is I'm going to be now, but I think that in general, my attitude towards this, it's almost similar to like veganism and these kind of things or even global warming, where it's like, there's really power in numbers. So you should really, if you do feel strongly about that movement, then it is actually in your best interest to basically, you know, there's a spectrum, there's shaming, and then it basically like encourage as many people to like get in your bandwagon as possible because you feel so strongly about it. And when we're talking about this, I almost have I usually don't have any issues that I really try to push on other people, and I generally take the approach of they do what they want to do and whatever works for them. I'm not going to try to run their life, and I'm going to just do me. But when it comes to this, it's like, I really do feel strongly, maybe it's because it's my industry and my thing, where it's like, I go down there and like shake people and be like, what are you doing? You know, this is, you can't just let them out and out steal, honestly.
Yeah. I've tried that approach, but I kind of did get put in my place as something that I didn't really think about too much. So when Venetian first came out with Sheldon Adelson saying, you know, I'm against online poker. You could click a mouse and lose a house was one of the stupidest things.
Really?
I'm like, people come to your casino and lose a house. Do you refund them their house? You don't. So how are you the moral authority here on online poker? He even offered an app where you could gamble from your room. So like the one point of like, ooh, people might do some things in private that they'd be ashamed to do in public. And maybe they're going to risk too much when they're, you know, at home and they've had some drinks or whatever. I'm like, you're letting people do that in your room. So you've abandoned all arguments that aren't just greed and wanting to keep the money in your casino instead of online. And so that's kind of silly. I did take a stance, and I remember trying to do the shaming thing. Like, how could you guys play here and all this stuff? And then I realized that like there are people who are struggling in poker, and if this is their one way to make it in poker is to play these softer fields because other people are boycotting, I can't tell them don't feed their kids.
Exactly.
And they have backers who might enforce it and say, if you want to be backed by me, you go play this soft 1500 at Venetian. And so I'm shaming a guy who's like, I don't want to play here either, but like the guy who makes it possible for me to like pay my bills and live my life is telling me I have to play. So I'm like, shaming is not really appropriate. I think that like informing people and just making sure that there's no one there who's playing this and being like, it's just a regular tournament like all the other ones.
They're ignorant, yeah.
Yeah, informing them is good. And then if they still want to make that choice, like I'm not their mother, I can, you know, deal with that.
I think what might happen too is that, you know, since the number is going to go down, I assume, they might not even get anywhere close to the guarantee. So they might play it. They might play it being like, well, I'm going to play it knowing that it's going to be an overlay. And so they're just going to, but in the same way, I just want it
to be a massive overlay. I'll keep my $250 out of the tournament, and Venetia can cover that $250 and just learn from that, which it sucks because it's not personal. Like I really like the floor people there. I really like the dealers there. I think it's a nice room to play in. I don't know whose decision this was, but whatever. I don't like that one guy.
I definitely, you know, I think that Sheldon would be a great first guest for us. I think we could really get to the bottom of this if we could get him on here. How do we, maybe like hashtag me too. I'll just like send him a nude photo and be like, hey, I would love to talk to you more about this. He could definitely, I could see him being a Harvey Weinstein type maybe. I don't know. You never know. I mean, it's possible. So, Guys, we're going to work on that for you.
Cannot confirm nor deny that he's a gross dude.
Cannot confirm it. Cannot confirm it. But I'm going to definitely work on getting him as a guest because I think that, I would love to just flat out ask him these questions and say, and try to get any other answer other than just greed, other than just...
Well, he has a bunch of answers. They just don't add up. Yeah. Like, I could actually buy that whole thing. Like, okay, a casino owner who has definitely built a really nice casino where a lot of people have lost a fortune that they couldn't afford. That's just part of a casino. Like, every time there's gambling, there's going to be problem gambling too. It's just weird to come out as the moral authority on it when you have assisted people in losing their life savings. And I would have actually bought it, the whole thing about like, you don't want people in private making these decisions. But then when you allow the gaming in your hotel room because you found a way to make more money off of people, I'm like, all right, now I'm calling bullshit. Like, there is no plausible argument for you to be against online poker, but for people losing a ton of money in your casino, except for the fact that they thought they couldn't open a competitive online gaming system.
And
they're going to lose money.
They lose business. And people, I think that there is like a decent amount of shame around gambling. And so I think that if that, they definitely would lose business. People would rather do it in their privacy of their own home and their privacy of their own thing. But, I like to keep my problems out where everyone can see them.
Yeah, same. But no, hopefully this is just a one and done thing. Like, hopefully that I wasn't in the marketing meeting. Like, maybe there was some reason that wasn't just like absolute horrible greed. And maybe they're just going to do this and realize like this wasn't the thing we should have been doing. And they just scrap it and they continue offering the deep stacks, which are fun tournaments and they're good.
Maybe it was like simply a publicity stunt. They knew people would be talking about them. So they just did it. Just to get people talking about them. And then
this is like a Marle publicity stunt where you're like, hey guys, I've got herpes. People are going to talk about it. This is good for me. All news is good for me.
I've done that.
Oh, God. Oh, man.
I got a cream, so we're good.
Jesus.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. But the good news is there's still enough good casinos out there doing the right thing. And we have so many options. It would be awful if it was such a monopoly. Where there is a lot of MGM properties that are all one, and we do see a couple big conglomerates being built. But there's so many options now. It's like, if anything, I don't get it because you're not staying competitive. But
you're gonna hurt yourself. But, being in Vegas is really nice. That was one of the best things about moving here is that there's always another tournament. There's always another series. You give your business and your money to the places that you like the most. Yeah. And I feel like we both ended up at the same ones. Like we both like the Wynn, Encore, and Aria. And they tend to treat women better. Getting back to our first topic, like they really do. I was like, I never have an issue there. I just feel like everyone's nice in those places. And like the dealers and floor are super well trained and can handle all the issues. And like, I don't know.
How much of that do you put into your decision on where you're going to play, like the actual just amenities and stuff?
Embarrassingly way too much.
Yeah, I'm the same. And it's funny because people ask me this all the time in Vegas or through the vlog and stuff, where do you like to play? And for me, I like the Wynn and Aria. And it's because of the staff is so great and the amenities are so great. And I think the games are actually the toughest at the Wynn overall.
Same with Aria. I feel like there are two spots where like if I was on my last like 10 buy-ins, you're going to find me at Flamingo. You're not finding me at the place because they have watermelon juice.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you want watermelon juice, you're going to get 3-bet a lot. That's just the yin and yang. But for me, and for me, I kind of like, I'm such a degen that, especially with the Wynn, I like that it's deeper buy-ins. I like that it's, people are definitely wilder in general, which tends to be more swingy, but I like when money moves around a lot. I don't like when rooms are so nitty and it's like old men coffee and there's like bad beat jackpots everyone's just trying to get, and it drives me insane.
Oh man, this is such a tangent, but I just have to tell a story because it was maybe the most embarrassed I've ever been in a poker table. It was my first week living here, and I played at Aria. And I watched two guys get in probably $1,500 a piece at 2-5, which is a big amount. Having flopped straight flush under straight flush. And I get up and go, yes, because I was from the East Coast and there's a bad beat jackpot in every single room. And the guy who lost just looked at me like he wanted to melt my skull. Like he's like, are you kidding me? And I was like, oh, there's no bad beat here, huh? And he's like, no. And he just leaves in a huff having gotten stacked, flopping a straight flush. And I'm an asshole, so...
Yeah, I mean that is the silver lining, is that when you do get bad beat, you get a little bit of rake back. But I don't. What do you think about that actually, of the jackpots and the promotions?
I think they're good for the smaller rooms. Like Red Rock is like 5 minutes from me, and they take $1 out of like every pot for the bad beat. But also like the old man coffee types talk about it constantly.
Yeah,
they're like, oh cool, this one has a bad beat. I'm like, oh, it's like so impossible to hit this. But if it makes him come to the casino and have fun and like dream of winning, instead of a $500 pot, winning like 50K, 100K, then it's fine. Promotionally. I just don't. I'd rather have my $1 back from every pot that I've ever played.
I agree. I think that overall it's a deterrent for me, but I guess we are regs, so if you're getting less regs and you're getting...
I thought you're just a vlogger. So
You go I don't even know.
Jackpots.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, I don't even know what I am. I don't identify as anything. Yeah. I identify as bad reg. Bad reg. Or them, their bad reg. But yeah. I don't know. I mean, Venetian is one of the ones that did the promotions too. So
they had the last time I played there, they had some high hand thing going on in the cash rooms too. Like, this is where I just feel, as soon as I start trashing a casino, I get that pang of guilt where I'm like, their marketing team's trying.
They're trying.
Because they have promotions all the time. And like, this is one promotion that just is like a reverse promotion.
Yeah.
And I just don't like it. And I think, I mean, multiple articles have been written all over from the poker community and multiple tweets that like people really, really hate this idea. And I hope that they just listen and that it's one and done and we don't have to ever talk about it again.
Yeah, guys. So, well, when we have Sheldon on next time, we'll ask him. But until then, all we can do is speculate.
I can just picture Sheldon sitting here just right in front of Crouton, you know, like on the edge of the thing.
And he's just like,
yeah.
But yeah.
Crouton might bite him. It's like, you made it harder for my mom to make a living.
No. Baby.
I don't know. That is one of the reasons, like, I firmly believe that without opposition from rich people like Adelson, that we'd be able to play Run It Once in the U.S. We'd be able to have just online. More than 1 or 2 states, because right now it's Nevada, New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania eventually. But something that's been in the news a lot lately is that Pennsylvania was supposed to open July 15th. And they opened their casino games online and not their poker, which like broke my heart, because I'm like, that used to be the thing where it's like poker was first, people can't wait to play online poker, and then they started adding blackjack and roulette and all these other things. But now there was more of a want for there to be sports betting and then these random casino games that were just complete gambling rather than online poker. And so the companies that plan to start online poker are actually releasing all the casino stuff first, trying to make sure that they have enough revenue to pay for like this massive licensing fee that online poker has attached to it, and then they're going to open. So you know, we had that whole poker's not dead talk, but it's like, man, gambling, like other gambling is thriving, sports betting and fantasy sports and things like that. It's their boom right now, and like poker's kind of taking a backseat to that.
It is.
So bummer,
but
if you want to do the opposite of supporting the Venetian and their reverse guarantee, you should check out Run It Once, because we got Phil Galfond manning the controls, and he actually has your best interests at heart.
Yep, you can sign up through once.run/play and receive a 100% deposit bonus up to €600. And you're going to get 51% rake back in their Splash the Pot rewards program, and it's awesome. Do that immediately. Also, if you want to learn how to play poker, get better, Run It Once training is the place to be. Once.run/learn, and you'll get 3 free elite videos, and it's all there for you. Check it out.
Forget what we were going to say.
So that does it for this episode. If there's anything that you guys want to see, do feel free to write in and let us know. We're always open to suggestions. And don't forget to send us your punty hands for the As Played segment. We're going to get that going very soon.
Yeah, check it out. Just send us your puntiest hands. And we want, like, really, I want to see money being torched right before our eyes. No brag posts like most people do. I want to see you losing massive amounts of money in reckless ways. Send those hands to asplayed@runitonce.com.
Yeah, and we'll see you guys next time.